I nearly walked past her. She was hunched over a plastic tray at the far corner of the food court. Her back to the crowd, her shoulders pulled in, like she was trying to disappear. The uniform she wore was 2 sizes too big, the name tag dangling by a single bent pin. Isla. It wasn't the way I was used to seeing my daughter, not the confident young woman who'd walked across her nursing school graduation stage with Emma on her hip. This woman had scuffed sneakers, a hollow face, and eyes fixed on a stack of coins she was pushing around with her thumb. She didn't notice me until I said her name, Isla. She jumped, then looked up like a child caught in something. Mom? Hi? I sat down slowly across from her. What are you doing here? She tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Just getting coffee. I looked down at the table. 4 quarters a nickel, 3 dimes, 2 pennies. With change. She picked up the cup, already half empty, and shrugged. It's fine. Where's Emma? With Richard and his mom, she said. They're taking her to the park. My throat tightened. And your car? She looked away. Richard's using it. The SUV I helped you buy his truck broke down. He needs it for work. For a month, her fingers trembled around the cup. What are you driving? Her voice was light. Too light. The bus. It saves gas. I reached for her hand. It was ice cold. Isla, talk to me. She pulled back. There's nothing to talk about. But there was. I could feel it. I could see it in the shadows under her eyes, and the way she kept glancing at her phone like she was being timed. I need to go, she said, standing too fast. The 3:15 bus. I'll drive you. No, she snapped, then softened. I'm fine, Mom. Really? She wasn't. And I wasn't leaving her alone. Have you eaten today? She hesitated, then sat back down, and I knew in that moment that she was starving for far more than food. I brought back enough food for 3 people. Isla barely blinked when I set the tray down, but the moment the scent hit her, something shifted. She picked up her fork like it was a lifeline. She didn't speak at first. Just ate fast, focused, like someone afraid the plate might disappear. When's the last time you had a real meal? I asked gently. She shrugged. A couple days ago. I've been busy. And Emma. She's fine. Diane cooks most nights. I waited until she'd slowed down before I asked the next question. You're still at the house on Maple Street. There was a pause. A flicker. Yeah? She said quickly. Same place. I tilted my head. You haven't redecorated. I could stop by sometime. She glanced at her phone. It's kind of a mess right now. I took a sip of my drink watching her. That house has always been tidy. You love keeping things in order. Another pause. A longer one. Her fork lowered. I'm not really living there anymore, she said quietly. Not since a few months back. Where then? She stared down at her plate. Diane's. In the garage. My breath caught. The garage? She nodded. They gave me an air mattress. There's a space heater, but it doesn't work great. I didn't speak. Not yet. It's just temporary, she added. Until I prove I can be more responsible. Diane says I need to earn the bedroom again. She tried to laugh. It cracked halfway out. Emma's upstairs, she continued. She doesn't know. She thinks I sleep there too. Something inside me twisted hard. And you're okay with that? I asked quietly. No, she whispered. But I don't have a choice. She picked up her fork again, but her appetite was gone. I didn't push her anymore. I just sat there, memorizing every detail, her sunken cheeks, the lines in her brow, the way her hands trembled when they were still. She thought she had no options, but I knew better. We sat in silence long after the food was gone. The tray pushed aside. Isla's hands lay in her lap, fingers curled inwards like she was trying to hold herself together. They took everything she said. Finally, her voice flat. I didn't interrupt. The house, she began. It's still in Richard's name. Diane said it was just a paperwork thing, something to simplify taxes. He told me to sign a few things after work one day. I didn't ask questions. She looked up at me, guilt flashing through her eyes. I should have known. You trusted your husband, I said gently. I don't even know if he had a job. He said he lost it, but nothing ever added up. Then we moved in with Diane, and that was it. One day, I came home, and the locks were changed. She pressed her lips together. My paychecks go into a joint account now, but I can't access it. He said we needed to combine finances, that it would help with budgeting. But the bank app won't even let me log in anymore. I asked about it. Diane said I was being dramatic. I could feel my jaw tighten, but I said nothing. They canceled my cards. Told me I'd been overspending. Diane gives me $20 a week in cash. That's it. And she goes through my locker at work. If she finds anything extra, she says I'm stealing from the family. Her voice cracked. 3 days. I didn't see Emma for 3 days after she found $40 in my scrubs. Said I was hiding things. Said I didn't deserve to be near my daughter. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She didn't bother to wipe them. They tell me I work too much, that I'm unstable, that Emma deserves better. I reached across and touched her arm. She flinched. I'm scared, Mom, she whispered. They're building a case. They want to take her, and I don't know how to stop them. I squeezed her hand steady. That was the moment I started my list. I didn't sleep that night. After Isla left to catch the bus, I drove home on autopilot, my hands steady on the wheel, while my thoughts rearranged themselves into something colder and clearer. Fear had its place, but it wasn't useful yet. Order was. I opened my laptop at the kitchen table and let the familiar glow settle in. The same table where I'd reviewed zoning violations and housing complaints for decades. Different problem now. Same instincts. I started with public records. Property databases were still what they'd always been. Slow, thorough, unforgiving. I typed in the Maple Street address and waited for the page to load. Owner history. Deed changes. Rental status. I didn't draw conclusions yet. I just saved everything. Then I picked up the phone and called Margaret Chen. She answered on the second ring. Lorene, I need a favor, I said. And I need discretion. There was a pause. Family law. Yes. All right, she said. Tell me what you need. By the time we hung up, she'd agreed to look into court filings and custody procedures, and I had a name circled on a yellow pad, Catherine Park. The next call was to James. We'd worked together years ago, back when he still wore suits, and I still had an office downtown. I need eyes, I told him. Quiet ones. He didn't ask questions. He never did. Where I gave him an address. The last call was the hardest. The bank. I kept my voice even, polite, precise. My daughter's name is Isla Ross, I said. I need to know what access she has to her own accounts. They put me on hold. I waited. When the call ended, I had confirmation of what could be requested and how, with Isla's permission. By midnight, my dining table was covered in printouts and notes, dates, names, arrows connecting one fact to another. I wasn't angry yet. I was focused. And before I shut down the laptop, I picked up my keys because the next thing I needed to see wasn't on a screen. Maple Street was quiet when I arrived. The kind of neighborhood that dressed itself in calm, the trimmed hedges, the motion sensor porch lights, the wind chimes barely moving in the breeze. But there it was. The house I helped them buy. A white sign stuck into the front lawn like an insult for rent. I parked down the block and walked slowly past. The windows were bare. No curtains, no toys scattered in the yard. I cupped my hands to the glass and leaned in. Empty. The living room where Emma had opened birthday gifts. The hallway where I once hung a holiday wreath. Gone. By the time the sun dipped below the rooftops, I was parked in front of Diane's place, upscale, boastful, sterile. I cut the engine and waited. At exactly 7:30, headlights turned the corner. Richard. He pulled into the driveway like he owned the world. stepped out of the Highlander I'd co-signed, and walked inside. 15 minutes later, the garage door creaked open. I leaned forward. Inside, dim light pooled from a single bulb. Cement floor, plastic bins stacked in the corner, and on an air mattress, still in her grocery store uniform, was my daughter eating something from a wrinkled paper bag. Her back was curled like someone expecting a blow. She didn't see me. I raised my phone and pressed record. Slowly, carefully. Every detail: the exposed wiring, the space heater too close to her bedding, the flimsy blanket. Her shoulders hunched, her head down. She looked like she'd been erased. I didn't cry. I didn't knock. I didn't scream. I just hit save. Then I pulled out my phone again and scrolled to James's number. He answered on the first ring. "Tomorrow," I said. 6 a.m. Bring the camera. Same address. Yes. And bring the long lens. There was a pause. Then got it. I ended the call and sat back in the seat, hands steady on the wheel, my jaw set. If no one else was going to stop this, I would. And I'd start before the sun rose. The next days blurred into each other, measured in documents and timestamps. James sent the first batch of footage before noon. Still images of the garage. Close-ups of the heater, the mattress, Isla sitting on the concrete floor, tying her shoes before dawn. He didn't add commentary. He didn't need to. Margaret called that afternoon. "Lorene, the house on Maple Street is still legally joint," she said. "Both names are on the deed. There's no record of a transfer." I closed my eyes. "Then how is it rented?" "That's the problem," she replied. Richard signed the lease alone. Rents being deposited into an account under his name only. Illegal. The bank records arrived the next morning. I spread them across the table and read, slowly, carefully, signatures that didn't match Isla's handwriting, forms authorizing changes she'd never approved, her paychecks arriving like clockwork, then vanishing into an account she couldn't access. Forgery. James followed up with audio. Diane's voice sharp and controlled, speaking to a small child. "If your mother loved you, she wouldn't live out here," Diane said. "She chooses work over you." Emma's soft reply broke something in my chest. That was the moment I stopped sorting papers and started building a case. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Catherine Park. Her office was spare and bright, the kind of place that made you feel exposed, even when you were right. She listened without interrupting, flipping through the folder I'd brought. Photos, bank records, transcripts. She stopped at the forged signatures, then the rental agreement, then the audio transcript. "This," she said, finally looking up at me, "is financial abuse, coercion, and parental alienation. It's also one of the cleanest paper trails I've seen in years." "How fast can we act?" I asked. "I can file for emergency custody within 24 hours, she said. "Asset recovery shortly after." I nodded once. "I want my granddaughter back. And your daughter." I didn't hesitate. "I want her free." Catherine closed the folder. "Then we don't wait." As I stood to leave, my phone buzzed with a message from Isla, asking if I was okay, and for the first time since the food court, I knew exactly what I was going to tell her next. I spotted her before she saw me. Same table, same slouched shoulders. Isla looked smaller this time, like whatever thread had held her together was thinning. She was stirring a cup of tea that had probably gone cold, eyes fixed on nothing. I walked over and sat down without a word. She looked up startled and tried to smile. "Hi, Mom." I didn't waste time. I slid the folder across the table. Thick, neatly clipped, heavy in more ways than one. "What's this?" she asked, fingers hovering over the cover. Everything I said. Proof of forgery, rental fraud, parental alienation, bank manipulation. The house is still legally half yours. The car, too, your wages tracked. The audio of Diane. That alone could bury her in court. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Her eyes moved over the pages like they didn't belong to her life. Then she stopped. Her lip quivered. "We file Friday," I said gently. Catherine's ready. Emergency custody for Emma. Asset return. Restraining order if needed. Isla closed the folder carefully, like it might crack. But what if they fight it? She whispered. I leaned forward. Let them. She shook her head, scared. Diane always has a way. She twists things. Makes it sound like I'm unstable. I took her hand. And for the first time, she won't be the only one in the room. You have legal representation. You have documentation. And you have me. Tears filled her eyes. I don't know how to do this. You don't have to know. You just have to show up. Tell the truth. I'm so tired, Mom. I know I said, but it's almost over. She didn't speak again for a while. Just sat there gripping the folder like it was a lifeline. And maybe it was. When she finally looked at me, there was something new behind the fear. A flicker of fight. I'll be there Friday, she said quietly. I know you will. We stood, and I wrapped my arms around her. For the first time in months, she didn't pull away. When I let go, she was already holding her head a little higher. Friday morning came with a strange calm. Isla stood at the mirror in the hallway, adjusting the one dress she had left that still looked professional, though it hung loose on her frame. I didn't say a word. Just handed her the same beige heels she used to wear to interviews, and we left. At the courthouse, Richard and Diane were already there. Richard tried to look confident, straightening his sleeves like he had something to prove. Diane glanced up from her phone and scoffed. Then Catherine walked in behind us. Their expressions shifted immediately. Who's this? Diane asked. I'm Catherine Park, she said smoothly. Family law attorney, representing Isla Ross, on behalf of her mother. Their lawyer, a young man with too much gel in his hair, stood and started mumbling something about misunderstandings. Catherine didn't blink. Let me save you time. She placed the folder on the table. Page after page. Photos of Isla, sleeping on an air mattress in a garage. Videos of Diane telling a child her mother didn't care. Forensic proof of forged bank documents. Statements showing redirected income. Witness reports. Rental fraud. Emotional abuse. Parental alienation. Diane started to sputter. This is twisted. It's documented, Catherine cut in. Richard turned pale, shifting in his seat. Their lawyer stopped trying to object. I suggest a settlement, Catherine said plainly. Before we take this to open court and make it part of the public record. It didn't take long. By noon, the deal was drafted. Isla would receive full custody of Emma, immediate return of the SUV, control of her restored accounts, all back pay from the rental property, and exclusive rights to the home on Maple Street. Diane would have no contact. Richard would be permitted supervised visitation pending parenting courses. By 4 p.m., Isla stood beside me on Diane's porch, police at her back. Emma's little suitcase in my hands. You can't do this, Diane yelled, clutching a cardigan like it was a shield. Emma needs. She needs her mother, I said. Inside, Emma ran to Isla. Mommy, are we going home now? Isla knelt down, arms wide. Yes, baby, we are. The key turned easily in the lock. Isla pushed the door open and Emma ran inside, shouting, This is ours. This is really our house. I nodded as I stepped in behind them. The hardwood floors still held the scuff marks from Emma's old toy stroller. The curtains Isla had picked were still hanging in the living room windows. The space echoed mostly empty tenants had cleared out fast, but it was theirs again. Emma darted from room to room, calling out memories, squealing when she saw the faded princess wallpaper still clinging to her bedroom wall. I watched Isla follow slowly behind her fingertips, grazing the stair rail like she needed to prove this wasn't a dream. She barely spoke all evening. She unpacked what little they had brought from the garage, a few folded shirts, Emma's toothbrush, a stuffed fox. When I offered to order dinner, she simply nodded. After we'd eaten, and Emma had fallen asleep in her own bed, Isla and I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where she used to help me sort birthday invitations and clip coupons for baby formula. She stared down at her hands. I thought I'd lost everything. I didn't correct her. I just reached across and held her hand. You didn't. Not with me here. Her fingers closed around mine, and her shoulders finally sagged, not in defeat, but in release. I let it get so far, she whispered. I kept thinking if I just stayed quiet, played along, it would pass. That I could keep Emma safe by giving up a little of myself, then a little more. And then you realized there was nothing left, I finished gently. She nodded. A tear slipped down her cheek, but she didn't try to hide it this time. I don't know who I am anymore, she said. Not after all that. I didn't offer answers. I just poured her some tea and sat with her in the silence. In the quiet, something steadier began to settle between us. Not certainty, but the beginning of something like it. Outside the porch, light flickered on. The oak tree looked fuller this year. Its branches stretched wide over the backyard, casting dappled shadows across the grass, where Emma ran in circles, wearing a crooked paper crown. Isla had strung up streamers between the posts of the porch, and a fold-out table held cupcakes, juice boxes, and a cake Emma insisted be pink, no matter the flavor. 6 months. That's how long it had been since we'd walked out of that courthouse with the emergency order in our hands. 6 months since Isla had moved back into her home, back into herself. She'd gained the weight back. The circles under her eyes had faded. She still worked long shifts, but she came home to a house that was hers, a room that was hers, a bank account with her name alone. Richard had made some effort parenting classes therapy. He saw Emma twice a month, always supervised. Isla was civil, but distant. She hadn't forgiven him. I wasn't sure she ever would. And Diane, well, Diane had tried. 2 separate petitions for visitation rights. Both times Catherine had responded with a crisp letter and attached evidence. Neither case even made it to hearing. We hadn't heard from her since. Push me higher. Emma squealed from the swing. I stepped aside as Isla walked over and gave her a gentle push, the swing creaking as it rose. Pizza tonight? Emma called out. Mommy Gamma? Can we have pizza tonight? I laughed. Whatever you want, birthday girl. She kicked her legs joyfully, hair flying back in the wind. Isla came to stand beside me, arms crossed loosely, a soft smile on her face. She's happy, she said. She is, I replied. Isla looked over the yard, the tree, the swing, the table covered in crumbs and half-filled juice boxes. You know, she said quietly, I don't need anything else. I have it all now. I reached for her hand. Me too. The sun shifted through the leaves, and Emma's laughter rang clear across the yard. In the warmth of that moment, it didn't matter how far we'd come, only that we were here, together.